Dolphins will be in Seattle to take on the Seahawks in Week 3. Damien, what continues to sort of be at the forefront of your mind when it comes to Tua?
His health, his family. I mean, there is a life outside of football, and people tend to forget. These are high-profile athletes. They're getting paid a lot of money to go out there and do a job, but there's life outside of this job. Tua recently married, has a son now. His whole life has changed. Like, yes, he's still a football player. He's still the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, but his entire life has changed. So that's been at the forefront of my mind. I was somebody who, had an injury that ultimately ended up making me retire. So, and the biggest thing that I always looked at was my family, my wife, my son. What is going to be left of me after football if I keep putting myself through just the physicality and the things that my body can't take anymore. And I got to a point where I couldn't do it anymore. And I think that what is ultimately being said now and what the general thought is that it's time for Tua. The time has come where it's no longer important to think about the Miami Dolphins. It's no longer time to think about how many wins and losses, how big your deal is that you just signed. It's time to think about your wife, your son, your family. I spent a lot of time with Tua at Alabama. I know how tight-knit his family is. It was like his whole entire family was in Tuscaloosa for practices, for games. So I understand how important that is for him. So, as a friend, as a brother, as somebody who shared the locker room with him, I just really would encourage anybody in this situation to just, prioritize yourself, prioritize your family, because at the end of the day, regardless of how long you play, it's going to come to an end. So there's life after football, and now is the time for Tua to start thinking about that.
It's interesting that you're delivering this message because you're not the only one across the league having the same thought process. Actually, Antonio Pierce, the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders, also chimed in, and we're going to hear from him echoing some of the things that you just told us now.
Absolutely.
I'll be honest, I'll just tell him to retire. It's not worth it. It's not worth to play the game. I haven't witnessed anything like I've seen that's happened to him 3 times. Scary. You can see right away the players' faces on the field. You can see the sense of urgency from everybody to get Tua help. I just think at some point, he's going to live longer and he's going to play football. Take care of your family.
Perfectly said.
AP certainly has seen a lot of football, has won some championships, of course. Injury concerns for Tua. You mentioned your time with him in Tuscaloosa. Describe to me his effort, his want to play, and how he puts everything out there on the field.
Tua is the ultimate competitor, and I've played with a lot of them. I mean, I've played with a lot of guys that compete at the highest level, and I would put Tua right at the top of that class. So I know how important this game is for him, and I know how important it is for him to get himself back in a position to be a great quarterback, put his team in a position to win and all those other things. But again, it's not necessarily about that right now. Like, seeing the things that we've seen happen to Tua the past couple years on the football field is incredibly alarming for all of us as fans of the game. And most of us don't have any connection to Tua whatsoever. But what is his family thinking? I'm going to keep going back to that 100 times. How is his wife? Is that a lasting memory that you want your children to have of you? You know what I mean? And unfortunately, we have to have a conversation that is this frank and this upfront and honest, because just of what we've seen of Tua these past couple of years, it's really hard to watch. It really is, because he is such a great player. He's a talented guy. And, he deserves that big lucrative contract that he just got. But again, there's life after football. And, that's the conversation that we're having right now about Tua.
Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa, our first thought is to try to get him, healthy, in the right mind, and then have him go with his family and people that he trusts to make a decision on that. Let's bring in our injury analyst, Marty Jaramillo here. Marty, great to be with you again. Same thing I want to ask you that I asked Damien here. Give me your thoughts on what you saw with Tua, and just take me through the thought process of what he's going through medically here.
Well, first of all, I want to thank Damien for those candid thoughts. Indeed, it's so much more about football. And last night, yet again, another scary, scary moment for Tua. But for so many reasons and for so many people, like to echo Damien's thoughts, it's Tua the athlete, Tua the person, Tua the family man, his child, his kids, his family, everything, his teammates. And that's why this discussion is on such a greater magnitude. So what we saw is he got basically 2 punches. He was hit by Damar Hamlin directly on the top of his head. Then when he landed on the back of his head. And that 1-2 punch, if I may, created so much jostling of his brain that when he finally landed, he had the very feared fencing posture, which is that arm that you're watching right now on replay. The arm fully extends, and it's called fencing posture because it's the on-guard position of the athlete there. And what does that tell us? That tells us that there is severe brain trauma. If we say that again and reflect on that, severe brain trauma. And it's not the first time, it's now the second time and the third concussion in 2 years that we know about. And yes, he enters traditional NFL concussion protocol. And he probably will clear it. Maybe after one game, maybe after two. But that is not what we're talking about. We're talking about even if you can clear concussion protocol, should you come back to football? At minimum, and I'm also on the sideline of taking a year off, possibly retiring. I'm on that sideline. But if we have to talk and speculate on time off, I would want nothing short than 8 to 12 weeks to give him some time to heal. And we talk about retirement. We talk about so many notable former NFL athletes, coaches, current players, former players, talk about retirement. And they are 100% correct. Here's the problem. If we would ask them, what would your 25-year-old self, your 26-year-old self say? Well, guess what? At that age, you're invincible. And you're invincible until you're not. And that was last night with Tua.
Marty, certainly appreciate it. Thanks for hopping on HQ Spotlight with your insight on Tua Tagovailoa. I have one more thing before we sort of go macro, big picture, because we do have to talk about football. Damien, in terms of where we are at in the NFL in 2024, you have blue tent, you have new protocols, you have things in place to help sort of target things like concussion and other things to protect the players. Where do you feel, or how do you feel about what that is like now as we stand?
Wow. Talk about a subject that I'm not completely fluent in. I mean, obviously from the experience side,
yeah.
But it's such a hard thing to balance, right? Because I think what's really important is the conversation we were just having. These guys feel invincible. Last year when I played, I felt invincible until I didn't. So there are tons of precautions, there are tons of procedures to follow. There are a ton of measures to put in place by the NFL to keep these guys safe, keep these guys healthy, and put them in a protocol to where they have to progressively show signs of improvement in order to get back on the field. But you also have guys who might not be aware of symptoms. Like, not all symptoms are detectable. Not all symptoms are at the forefront of when you look at somebody and evaluate them. So it's kind of hard to tell. And then when you have guys that are so invincible in their own mind, and guys that see the opportunity of a lifetime, a lifelong dream of playing in the NFL, like, you can't keep those guys off the field. So, you know, maybe an answer on a concussion test might not be 100% truthful, just because at the end of the day, I feel like I'm invincible and I have the opportunity of my life to play in the NFL. So I'm going to maximize this small window of time, right? Like, that's the other side of this argument, right? Is there's such a small window of opportunity that you have to live out your dream of playing in the NFL, and you don't want that to be cut shorter than the window of opportunity already is. So it's a hard thing to navigate, because again, there are a lot of things put in place for these guys, but at the end of the day, when you've got 25-year-olds who dreamt of this moment and are having the opportunity of a lifetime, like, they think they're invincible and they just want to get back on the field.
There's no one roadmap to navigating this, as you point out. Andrew Luck, you know, called it a career early. Other players have decided to do the same. Let's bring in our Tyler Sullivan to have a conversation. Again, we got to get to the big picture, of course. We saw Skylar Thompson last night in relief of Tua Tagovailoa. Tyler, give me the sense of what you think Mike McDaniel has to think about football-wise in terms of that quarterback group.
Right. I mean, you know, it is kind of weird to start talking about football in a situation that Tua Tagovailoa is going through, but they do have games going forward, and they have a quarterback decision to make. He spoke today that, yes, they are looking at Skylar Thompson as the next man up, to quote Mike McDaniel, but they're also going to bring some other quarterbacks in. Of course, you have to deepen the room. You have to figure out what gives you the best opportunity to win right now. And is there an option outside of the organization that does that? As you can see on the screen here, there's a couple of options that the Patriots could go through. I think the easiest one is one where they can just call up Ryan Tannehill and say, hey, Would you like to come back to Miami to kind of bookend your career? He's been quoted this offseason saying that he's waiting for the right opportunity to come back into the NFL. And if this is a situation where Tua Tagovailoa is going to miss significant time, I think Ryan Tannehill makes a lot of sense. You look at what Tyreek Hill is. You look at what Jalen Waddle is, Devon Achane, that offense that Mike McDaniel has. You inject Ryan Tannehill in there, he is someone that could deliver the football to those pass catchers and those skill position players and make that offense move.